doing work outside the space station, an agency-wide town hall with our new administrator, and old data provide new insight about Jupiter's moon Europa. A few of the stories to tell you about this week at NASA. On May 16th, outside the International Space Station, our astronauts Drew Feustel and Ricky Arnold made a spacewalk to help swap out a failed cooling system component with a spare. It is one of several on the station's truss structure that helps maintain proper temperature for critical systems aboard the station. Feustel and Arnold also worked on replacing a camera system on the Destiny laboratory and a communications receiver.
Thank you.
On May 17th, during an agency-wide town hall that originated from headquarters, our new administrator, Jim Bridenstine, discussed a variety of topics.
Attracting talent is not a problem that NASA has. What we've got to make sure we're doing is making sure that we're attracting the diverse talent that ultimately is the best talent. The goal is we need the absolute best workforce for the absolute best agency in the U.S. government. I am committed to that.
The administrator also took questions from employees in the audience and those participating remotely from centers and facilities across the country. Bridenstine, who officially took office on April 23rd, takes over an agency critical to the nation's economy, security, and technological preeminence. On May 17th, while passing the moon on its way to its final working orbit, the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, or TESS, our next planet hunter, snapped a test image of the southern constellation Centaurus that reveals more than 200,000 stars. TESS is expected to cover more than 400 times as much sky as shown in the image during its initial 2-year search for exoplanets. A science quality image, also referred to as a first light image, is expected to be released in June. Old data from our Galileo mission, re-examined with new modeling techniques, are providing new insight into the question of whether Jupiter's moon Europa has the ingredients to support life.
We were aware of the possibility, but it was certainly not of something that we thought was highly probable. It was quite an aha moment.
The data from Galileo's closest flyby of Europa in 1997 have revealed independent evidence that the subsurface liquid water reservoir on the moon may be venting plumes of water vapor above its icy shell. This is good news for our Europa Clipper mission, which may launch as early as June 2022 to explore the moon's potential habitability. On May 15th, asteroid 2010 WC9 passed between Earth and the moon while traveling at about 29,000 miles per hour. At the time of closest approach, the asteroid came no closer to Earth's surface than about 120,000 miles, which is about half the distance between Earth and the moon. This flyby is the closest approach 2010 WC9 will make to Earth for at least 2 centuries. Expedition 5657, the next crew headed to the International Space Station, was in Star City, Russia, prepping for their mission. Our Serena Onion Chancellor, Sergei Prokopyev of Roscosmos, and Alexander Gerst of the European Space Agency are scheduled to launch June 6th from Kazakhstan for a 6.5-month mission on the station. That's what's up this week at NASA. For more on these and other stories, follow us on the web at nasa.gov/20.
Here are 4 awesome discoveries you probably didn't hear about this week.
Butterfly cam catches cancer. Researchers have developed a surgical camera inspired by the eye of the morpho butterfly, which can see regular color images and near infrared. Connected to goggles the surgeon wears, the camera sees infrared signals given off by near infrared dyes that bind to cancer cells, so the surgeon can find and remove all the cancerous tissue.
Grime Stopper. A new everything repellent coating could help kid-proof your phone, your home, even your child's daycare. Called omniphobic in material science parlance, the coating swiftly sheds just about every known liquid. Water, oils, alcohols, yep, even peanut butter. The research team hopes to bring the coating to market within 2 years. Who says grime doesn't pay?
Alligators on the beach? Mountain lions miles from the nearest mountain? Scientists say we better get used to it. A new study finds that as their populations rebound, Many large predators are recolonizing ecosystems that were once prime hunting grounds for them, before we humans decimated their numbers. Is this return to places long considered off limits or too stressful for them a short-term blip? The scientists say no. It's a return to the way it used to be, and it upends one of the most widely held paradigms of large animal ecology.
Galactic smash-up. Peering deep into space, 90% of the way across the observable universe, astronomers have witnessed the beginnings of a gargantuan cosmic pylon. The impending collision of 14 young star-bursting galaxies, an ancient megamerger destined to evolve into one of the largest structures in the known universe, with masses equivalent to 1,000,000 billion suns, vast amounts of dark matter, humongous black holes, and X-ray emitting gas with temperatures that reach over 1,000,000 degrees.
And there you go. See you next week with 4 more awesome discoveries funded by NSF.
New fissures opened up on Hawaii's Big Island in early May, spouting lava that destroyed homes. Landsat has been recording the lava flows since the eruption began in 1983. The most current image shown is from India's ResourceSat 2 satellite. In these images, green vegetated land is repeatedly covered with dark lava flows, and infrared imaging shows orange spots of heat. Eruptions from this volcano have a history of burying towns. The 1991 image shows a new lava flow that buried an entire community in 15 to 25 meters of lava. The image series also shows how the coastline of the island has changed as various lava flows reached the ocean. Landsat and other satellites continue to monitor the changing landscape of the island.
Traveling through airport security in a wheelchair or using a mobility device? Here's what to expect the next time you fly. For assistance during screening, contact the TSA Cares Helpline 72 hours before your scheduled flight. A TSA employee will be on hand to provide on-the-spot assistance at the checkpoint. On the day of travel, make sure to arrive early to allow enough time for security screening. If you're able to stand with your arms above your head and are able to walk through without support, then you may undergo screening through advanced imaging technology or a walk-through metal detector. If you cannot or choose not to be screened by advanced imaging technology or a walk-through metal detector, or if you're unable to stand or walk on your own, then you'll undergo a pat-down. A pat-down may also occur if you alarm during screening. If you're unable to remove your shoes, then your shoes will have to undergo additional screening. Wheelchairs and scooters will be screened to include the seat cushions and any non-removable pouches. Any removable items will need to undergo X-ray screening. Medications in liquid or solid form and paste or creams in excess of 3.4 ounces are allowed in your carry-on bag and are exempt from our TSA liquids rule. Walkers, crutches, canes, or other mobility aids and devices must also undergo X-ray screening. For your comfort and discretion, know that at any time during the screening process, you may request to speak with a supervisor or request private screening. Have additional questions about screening policies, procedures, and what to expect at a checkpoint? Contact the TSA Cares Helpline prior to your next flight, or send a tweet or direct message on Facebook to Ask TSA. For more information on travel and to print out your own notification card, visit tsa.gov.
Hiya, Queen of All Knowledge here, reminding you, creeps out there on the internet hack, scam, and trick savvy cyber users every day, but we can fight back. It's as easy as IC3. If you're a victim of online crime, don't give up. Visit IC3, the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. Your tips help the FBI track down cyber criminals around the world. Report your crime to www.ic3.gov today.
Meet James, the proud owner of a very popular local restaurant chain.
When we opened our second location, we used Census Bureau data to help pick a great spot downtown. Now we're ready to expand to another city. And you know who can help? Yep, the U.S. Census Bureau. Sure, they measure the population, but they have data on the whole economy. every industry, and geography. Makes you wonder, where does all this data come from? Turns out, it comes from business owners like me. I fill out my survey from the Census Bureau online, hit submit, and the Census Bureau takes it from there.
Survey responses like James are transferred directly to a secure database at Census Bureau headquarters, where they are automatically sorted and prepared for processing. Then, experienced analysts who have taken oaths of non-disclosure review reported data for completeness and accuracy. Estimates at various industry and geographic levels are produced by teams of Census Bureau statisticians. Strict measures are taken to prevent any data from being released that can identify an individual business. This is mandated by law. Survey response data has now been fully aggregated into industry and geographic statistics and is released from the Census Bureau through a wide range of reports. Reports that cover the national economy, regional statistics and business trends, statewide statistics on business and governments, and data comparing local markets all the way down to the zip code level.
The kind of information I need to help expand my business. Who knew that my data could make such a big difference?
Economic statistics from the U.S. Census Bureau. Data on every U.S. industry and geography that can help businesses grow. Visit census.gov for more information.
So what Mars Insight Lander is going to allow us to do is really map the inside of Mars. This is an important mission, not just for the United States, but an important mission for the world, so we can better understand why planets change and ultimately understand even more about our own planet. I think the one thing that really excites everybody is a question that we ask ourselves over and over again, which is, are we alone in the universe? Is there potential for life on a planet that's not our own? And one of the things that we want to do with Mars 2020, which is going to launch during the next window we have to go to Mars, is understand if there was a potential, or maybe even Mars might have at one time hosted life. If we want to get as much science as we can, as fast as we can, we need to get really good at using robots. We're going to have robotic missions to the moon before we have humans go to the moon, so that we can get the most out of our human science missions. And that's true on Mars as well. This president and vice president are very committed to getting America back to the surface of the moon as fast as possible. Earth, because we live here. And it's the only planet we know that can host life, so we better take care of it. When I was 5 years old, they made us draw what we wanted to be when we grew up, and I drew a picture of an airplane. I had a picture of myself there wearing a hat that I thought airline pilots wore. As a pilot in the Navy, I became very dependent on space-related capability. And a lot of the technologies that come from NASA have multiple uses and have transformed the way we live our lives. So people say, why are you interested in space? I think the question is, why wouldn't you be interested in space? It's critical to our everyday lives. So this is a critical mission for our country. It's a critical mission for the world. These are some of the brightest minds that our country has. We've got great international partners, and our nation is grateful, and in fact the world is grateful for their service.
The Small Business Innovation Research Program, or SBIR, provides seed money to domestic startups and small businesses so they could develop new and advanced technologies across a wide array of industries.
The SBIR program develops life-saving technologies that transform and helps improve healthcare for the American people.
OIG has found instances of fraud and waste in HHS's SBIR program. In a 2014 report, we found that 31% of SBIR grantees had questionable or unverified eligibility for at least one requirement. The report also found that HHS did not always perform a required check for duplicate awards with other federal agencies.
For instance, you can have an HHS grantee who was awarded an SBIR grant, and you can have another federal agency issuing a similar grant, and that grantee in his application can basically state that he's conducting the same research. So he's getting funded by two different federal agencies to conduct the same research.
OIG recommended that HHS create a central office to oversee its SBIR program, along with taking further steps to ensure compliance with eligibility requirements and improve procedures to check for duplicate awards. OIG has also investigated cases of fraud, where SBIR grantees have either provided false information on their certifications or have used the funds for prohibited purposes. In one case, a couple received over $8 million in grants, and they used the funds to pay for a boat, jewelry, and plastic surgery.
It's frustrating because we know this money is supposed to be used to improve healthcare in the United States, and instead it's being used to fund an extravagant lifestyle.
In another case, a researcher was awarded about $3 million to develop a vaccine for the Ebola virus. However, the money was instead spent on his commercial real estate ventures. Grantees that are caught misusing funds can face heavy fines, suspension, debarment, and even jail time. OIG also has the authority to impose civil monetary penalties on grantees that commit fraud. The agency will continue to investigate cases of potential fraud in the SBIR program, as well as review HHS's oversight of the program.
This research is going to improve the quality of healthcare for the American people. My biggest concern is that when this money is gone, it might prevent the honest researcher from developing a cure that might save maybe a loved one's life. So we may miss out on that.
We all know about gravity, but what you might not realize is that depending on where you are on the planet, the strength of gravity is different. For example, up here on a mountain with all this mass under me, gravity is stronger. Water also has mass, and the Earth has a whole lot of water. It's moving around, it's changing phases. If you can track the change in gravity, you can track the change in mass, and that means you're understanding the movement of water. NASA's about to send the GRACE follow-on mission, which will continue to do just that. Let's learn about it on this episode of Crazy Engineering. Okay, everybody, we're here with Neil. He's one of the key engineers on the GRACE follow-on mission. Neil, thank you so much for joining us and answering our questions. Why do we call it GRACE follow-on?
So GRACE stands for Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment. We're using gravity to track water motion around the planet. And the follow-on is because we've done this before and we're doing it again with 2 new satellites.
The original GRACE mission was launched in 2002. They lasted for 15 years and provided amazing science for the scientists.
Both of these missions have 2 satellites. Can you explain to us why we need 2 satellites instead of just 1?
So we need 2 satellites because we're trying to measure very precise small amounts of gravity changes in the Earth. The Earth is actually lumpy when it comes to gravity. Far away from Earth, gravity is just a single number, but as you get closer to the Earth, the gravity changes because the Himalayas have a little bit more mass, certain areas have less mass. And so as a satellite is orbiting the planet, as it comes towards a large mass, like the mountains, it actually will speed up. And then as it leaves, it will slow down. And so with 2 satellites, we're able to measure the distance between the 2.
How far apart are these satellites, and just how precise do they have to have the knowledge of each other's position?
We have the satellites at 200 kilometers apart, but we're measuring down to an accuracy of a micron level, which is about 1/10 of a human hair.
That is extremely precise, but sounds like a very hard engineering problem. What's the technology that lets us do this?
We're using microwave technologies at about 30 gigahertz. Here you see one of the satellites, and 200 kilometers away is the other satellite. And what we're doing is we're firing an RF signal to the other satellite, and the other satellite's measuring that. And as you move backwards and forwards relative to the sine wave, you can measure the distance changes to the levels we need.
Neil, it's been well more than a decade since the original GRACE mission. I assume we're upgrading some of these technologies. Can you describe some of those?
Sure. Like technology advances in general, we've upgraded computer systems, we have more efficient solar cells, we have better star cameras, and like everything else in the future, we now have lasers.
Lasers, yes. What do lasers actually get for us?
So we're actually using the lasers to do the measurement between the 2 satellites. We're using RF systems from the previous missions. On top of that, we have this new technology demonstrator where we're going to fire laser beams between each other to make a more accurate measurement between the 2 satellites.
Neil, this is without a doubt one of the coolest missions we've seen. thank you so much for answering our questions. When can we hope to see this launch?
So we're hoping to hitch a ride with SpaceX rocket later this year, and we should be collecting science data shortly after that.
All right, well, we'll certainly check that out. And everyone out there, check back soon for some more crazy engineering.
From open seas to far-off lands.
They answered freedom's call.
And with each headstone, there stands
a reminder to us all. Of those who paid the ultimate price.
And in hallowed ground now lay.
And so we honor their sacrifice.
On this Memorial Day.
Just the same as it is to protect Gettysburg, just as it is to protect any of the other battlefields. We owe it as a part of history. It should be a sanctuary so that we have something to teach the current generation of the sacrifices that were made.
And we were told that the only way that we got a winning group anywhere was through the Merchant Marine. They have some of the worst storms at seas off Cape Hatteras, and that's worse. We've lost many ships.
The German torpedo boats were laying off the coast there, and there was no protection. And the silhouette, they were like shooting pigeons at a shooting gallery.
The closest calls we had in the convoy where two ships were torpedoed, you couldn't stop. There were guys in the water and you couldn't stop to pick them up, you had to keep going. So you never know what happened to any of them.
We lost so many, they need recognition.
The sanctuary would be a giant underwater memorial. That would be fitting for the men that died and are still down there.
I mean, they should be honored. Their grave is in the water.
It's like any other battlefield that we had during the Civil War. It should be protected.
Preserving these battlefields, I think, gives us the means of educating and teaching what happened in order to preserve our country and its values.
I felt I was one of the luckiest guys on earth. For someone in my profession that has the interest I had, then it was wonderful. It was like you won the lottery, only even better.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engines running, commit, liftoff.
And when you figure we went 240,000 miles and to land right within, maybe perfectly or within 10 feet at least of your target, that's pretty amazing. And it shows how people in mission control and the tracking sites and the computer areas were able to refine what we could do. One of the things that I've loved about NASA is it never sits still. I have the fondest memories of that particular mission, even perhaps more than Apollo, because I was a more skilled astronaut by then, and also it's a lot more difficult to stay in space and be motivated for 2 months than it is to go on to the moon for 10 days. Going to the moon for 10 days is like going to Paris for your first visit or something. It's good. Every day is different. Hats off to the people that fly the space station now. It's day after day of hard work, and even though you have a nice view out the window, that doesn't kind of pay you back for the constant effort that you have to put out to be productive in space. After Skylab, I began to say, you know, I've seen sights that no other artist in all of history has ever seen. If I could paint that well enough, maybe I could do something wonderful in the art world. My theory is they should have taken an artist along with Christopher Columbus, because that would have been a nice thing to know what happened when he got there, what the other captains of the other ships looked like, what the crew looked like. So artists are nice things to have around. It just further celebrates one of the great human accomplishments.
East Africa has seen its largest rainfall totals in 38 years in 2018. May 9th, a private dam collapsed and sent millions of gallons of water rushing through a commercial coffee farm and into homes downstream. Landsat 8's shortwave infrared and near-infrared bands highlight the water's destructive path. The image from May of 2017 shows the dam surrounded by green vegetation and soil, which appears pink through Landsat's infrared band. The second image, captured 3 days after the dam broke, shows the trail of mud left behind as it snakes westward through the countryside. Landsat satellite imagery can be useful in monitoring flooding and natural disasters around the globe.